So, of course, the Thursday night game will be at Indianapolis at Houston. Then on Sunday, you have Chicago at Kansas City, Seattle at Cincinnati, Washington at Atlanta, Jacksonville at Tampa Bay, New Orleans at Philadelphia, Cleveland at Baltimore, St. Louis at Green Bay, Buffalo at Tennessee, Arizona at Detroit, New England at Dallas, Denver at Oakland. Sunday night game, you have San Francisco at New York. Monday night, you have Pittsburgh at San Diego. So, to me, the game of the week, week 5, obviously, it's hard to tell right now because, we don't know how free agency is going to hand out. Excuse me, we don't know how free agency is going to go about. Obviously, we don't have the draft yet. But I think that right now the highlight for week 5 will be New England at Dallas, as that could be a potential Super Bowl preview, depending on how both teams go. And as a Cowboys fan, I'm going to be very interested in that game. So now we move on to week 6. So week 6, the teams of the bye week in week 6, you have the Cowboys, Raiders, Rams, and Buccaneers all have a bye week in week 6. So in week 6, the Thursday night game is Atlanta and New Orleans. Again, a huge NFC South rivalry. These two teams do not like each other, so that should be an interesting game. You also have, on Sunday, you have Washington at the Jets. You have Arizona at Pittsburgh, a rematch of Super Bowl 43. You have Kansas City at Minnesota, a rematch of Super Bowl 4. So the NFL is really highlighting these Super Bowl rematches. You also have Cincinnati at Buffalo, Chicago at Detroit, Denver at Cleveland, Houston at Jacksonville, Miami at Tennessee, Carolina at Seattle, San Diego at Green Bay. Then you have Baltimore at San Francisco, a rematch of Super Bowl 47. And then you had the Sunday night game, you have New England at Indianapolis. The Monday night game, you have New York at Philadelphia. So to me, the highlight of this week 6, will be New England at Indianapolis. Can Andrew Luck finally get over the hump and beat New England? He has yet to beat New England in his career. Also, the Giants-Eagles are probably one of the best rivalries in the NFL on Monday Night Football. That should be exciting as well. And also, too, you got Carolina at Seattle. Even though Seattle's pretty much beating Carolina every time they played, but these two teams are very physical teams. They played each other in the playoffs last year, and I expect it to be another good game. All right, week 7. So the teams with the bye week in week 7 is Chicago, Cincinnati, Denver, and Green Bay. So, Thursday night game for week 7 is Seattle at San Francisco. Obviously, living in the West Coast, that's a huge rivalry between the Seahawks and the 49ers. Even though I think this year, with all the changes in San Francisco, that rivalry might lose a little bit of its luster this year. As I really don't see the 49ers being good at all. That's just my personal opinion. So on the Sunday games, you have Buffalo at Jacksonville in London. I hate these London games. I don't understand why they play these games in London, but it is what it is. Bills at the Jags in London. It's a home game for Jacksonville. Then you have Tampa Bay at Washington, Atlanta at Tennessee, New Orleans at Indianapolis, which is a rematch of Super Bowl 44. You have Minnesota at Detroit, Pittsburgh at Kansas City, Cleveland at St. Louis, Houston at Miami, The New York Jets at the New England Patriots. The Oakland Raiders at the San Diego Chargers. You have Dallas at the New York Giants. The Sunday night game is Philadelphia at Carolina. Monday night you have Arizona at Monday night you have Baltimore at Arizona. So I think the highlight of Week 7 will probably be Dallas in New York. Cowboys versus the Giants. That'll probably be Cowboys versus the Giants. Probably the highlight of Week 7. Most of these games played in Week 7. Not really all that interesting. Not one bit. Let's move on now to Week 8 as we now hit November. This is the nitty-gritty of the NFL season. All right. So the Thursday night game for Week 8 is Miami at New England. Rivalry game. Then on Sunday you have Detroit at Kansas City from London. Another London game, which, like I said, I hate these London games, but it is what it is. Detroit at Kansas City in London. Oh yeah, and by the way, before I get ahead of myself, the teams of the bye week are Buffalo, Jacksonville, Philadelphia, and Washington. So then you have Tampa Bay at Atlanta, Arizona at Cleveland, San Francisco at St. Louis, New York at Giants at the Saints, Minnesota at Chicago, San Diego at Baltimore, Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, Tennessee at Houston, the Jets at the Raiders. Then you have Seattle at Dallas. And then the Sunday night game, you have Green Bay at Denver, rematch of Super Bowl 32. And then on Monday night, you have Indianapolis at Carolina. The games I'm interested in seeing, to me, at Week 8 is going to be a great week for football. First of all, you got Seattle at Dallas. Dallas was the only team to beat Seattle in Seattle last year. They're going to face off against each other again this year. This time the game will be played at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. So that'll be a great matchup. Then, of course, Green Bay at Denver. For the first time, will be Aaron Rodgers versus Peyton Manning. So that'll be a great matchup. And, of course, on Monday night, you have the future of the NFL. Indianapolis at Carolina will be the first time that Andrew Luck and Cam Newton go head-to-head against each other. So 3 great games in Week 8. And also, to the London game, too, between Detroit and Kansas City, I think that'll be a great game. I think Detroit and Kansas City will surprise people this year. I think Detroit and Kansas City will make some lengthy runs this season. I see big things for both teams. Big things. All right, so Week 9. The teams that are on bye in Week 9 are Arizona, Baltimore, Detroit, Houston, Kansas City, and Seattle. So the Thursday night game for Week 9 is Cleveland at Cincinnati. And then on the Sunday games for Week 9, you have Green Bay at Carolina, Washington at New England, Tennessee at New Orleans, Miami at Buffalo, St. Louis at Minnesota, excuse me, Jaguars at the Jets, Oakland at Pittsburgh, the Giants at the Buccaneers, the Falcons at the 49ers, the Broncos at the Colts, the Sunday night game, Philadelphia at Dallas, and the Monday night game is Chicago at San Diego. So obviously the game of that weekend also be Philadelphia at Dallas. As we all know, DeMarco Murray left Dallas, went to Philadelphia. DeMarco Murray will be returning to Dallas for the first time in his career as an opponent. And also too, another big game is I think Green Bay versus Carolina could be a great game on that'd be early Sunday. And then the Monday night game could be interesting depending on what happens in the draft. Obviously, there's rumors right now that San Diego might trade Philip Rivers to Tennessee to get that number 2 pick to draft Marcus Mariota. There's also rumors that Chicago may trade Jay Cutler to Tennessee to get that number 2 pick to also draft Marcus Mariota. So you have two teams vying for the same player, and depending on what happens in the draft, it'll be interesting only because one of these two teams will be the losers of the Marcus Mariota sweepstakes, and just from that, it'll be an interesting storyline heading into that Monday night game. Now, obviously, if Marcus Mariota doesn't go to neither team, then then that storyline is not really valid. But if Marcus Mariota happens to get drafted by either the Bears or the Chargers, it could be an interesting storyline only because these are two teams that are trying to get him, and one team might be the loser in that sweepstakes. Like I said, if neither team drafts him, then that storyline is pretty much invalid. All right, so Week 10. Teams that have a bye in Week 10 are Atlanta, Indianapolis, San Diego, and San Francisco. So the Thursday night game for Week 10 is Buffalo, the Bills at the Jets, which to me will be I won't say a great game, but an interesting game because the big storyline of that game will obviously be Rex Ryan making his return to New York, and Rex Ryan's gonna want to get that game. So on Sunday for Week 10, you have Detroit at Green Bay. You have Dallas at Tampa Bay. You have Carolina at Tennessee, Chicago at St. Louis, New Orleans at Washington, Miami at Philadelphia, Cleveland at Pittsburgh, Jacksonville at Baltimore, and then you have Minnesota at Oakland, a rematch of Super Bowl 11, and then you have New England at the Giants, rematch of Super Bowl 42 and 46. You have Kansas City at Denver, and you have the Sunday night game will be Arizona at Seattle, and the Monday night you have Houston at Cincinnati. So the big games for Week 10 is Week 10 starts off with a bang, in my opinion, with the Bills and the Jets. Like I said, the whole storyline now with Rex Ryan not being the coach of the Bills, that would be huge, and that'd be a huge storyline. So Week 10 starts off with a bang. Then you have Detroit and Green Bay. To me, those will be the two teams vying for that NFC North Division crown. So that's going to be a huge game. Then you have New England and the Giants, Patriots and the Giants. Every time these two teams play, it's always a classic. Even when they played each other in the regular season back in 2011, it was a classic. Obviously, the two times they played each other in the Super Bowl in 07 and 11, they were classics. So that should be a good game. Then you have Kansas City and Denver. To me, that should be a great game as well. Two teams, I think, that are going to be vying for the AFC West. I think Kansas City has a legitimate shot of dethroning Denver and winning the AFC West. I think it'll be those two teams neck and neck. And then also, too, you have Arizona at Seattle, which is a Sunday night game. And depending on if Arizona can stay healthy, I think once again it'll be those two teams going neck and neck for that division. And I think Arizona, Seattle's the only threat to win in the NFC West. Week 10 is going to be a great week for football. Hypothetically. All right. Move on to Week 11. The teams that have a bye week in Week 11 are Cleveland, New Orleans, the Giants, and Pittsburgh.